recording this now. So I'm Alan Bentrup. I'm Canon for Evangelism and Mission. I'm also the communications officer for the diocese. And so if there are questions about technology, I can help figure out the answers to those. Jimmy Hartley is also on this call. He's Canon for Formation and Congregational Development. If there's questions about liturgical practice or what the bishop might allow, he and I can run those up to, the bishop has put together kind of an ad hoc liturgy task force. Another thing we can help with is if there's questions about licensure for worship leaders or things like that. We did a training for not a licensure, but kind of a refresher training on how to lead the daily office, geared towards those congregations that don't have clergy, those congregations in transition or smaller congregations without clergy, so that they could have folks equipped to lead the daily office online, for instance. And if there's questions about things like that or resources that we can provide, Jimmy and I can figure out how to get those to you. So with that, just open up the floor, and the main things to consider are there things that are working well for you that you want to share with other people? Are there struggles you're having that you want to ask the group for suggestions or opinions, or just kind of spitball and brainstorm? Or what are some resources that could be helpful to you and your community in this time? I think those are kind of the broad brush ideas of what we hope to talk about, and I leave it to y'all now.
Alan, I'll just mention one thing that we did for the Easter Vigil, and that is, so I think I had reached out to you about how I might do this particular thing, which was I wanted to be able to pre-record the Liturgy of the Word, those longer, readings at the opening of the Easter Vigil, but I wanted to be able to do the opening of the Easter Vigil live and do the pre-recorded part, and then continue live in the Facebook live stream. And I actually found a way to do that just using either a phone or an iPad, and it was a product called Switcher Studios.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of that.
I've heard of it. I've never used it.
Okay. It worked really well. And so basically I did a Zoom call where we did the Liturgy of the Word, and I recorded that. And then I went back with iMovie and just fixed it up a little bit, and, had a little bit of like an introduction to each of the lessons, just a thing that came up on the screen, that said the story of creation, and then it went to the person reading that. So, and I was able to, basically at the end of Exalt It, just press play to that, and it played in the midst of the live stream. And then at the end of it, I went back to the camera, all using an iPad mini. So it got rid of the need to have a computer. We had talked about maybe needing to have a laptop. And I don't know how helpful that is to anybody, but because it is, it does take some learning of the software, and I doubt that we'll do anything like that. I have thought about, could we, record the a parishioner doing one of the lessons, and include that in our Sunday worship. But in general, I probably would go into simpler again, but.
Yeah, and with Switcher Studio, was there a fee for that, or?
Yeah, so you can get it for 14 days for free, but it's going to have an emblem on it, their logo, and then to get the logo taken away, I think it's either $25 or $35 a month, and there may be some way of getting a reduced fee if you buy it for a year or something, but my intention is I went ahead and paid for the $35, but with the idea that I may just have it for a month, depending on if we really want to work with it anymore. So
yeah, so that might be Yeah, that might be an interesting thing. I mean, I know you're doing Eucharist every Sunday and you're doing weekday Eucharist, Facebook Live, right? Is that where you're mainly putting them out?
Yeah, it goes out Facebook Live, 6:30 p.m. Wednesdays and 10:30 a.m. Sundays, and we do that Facebook Live. We also have on our website there's a video page, and we've made it so that the Facebook Live feed shows up on that video page, and that was using another like kind of an app or something that it's another thing that it was like $5 a month for basically a kind of a toolkit thing that makes the Facebook Live automatically show up on that website page. Does that make sense? I think it's called Bid Live, maybe.
Okay.
BID Live.
Yeah, that's one of the struggles that Facebook's currently working on. And we talked last week, for if anyone was on the call, Facebook is announcing some new tools to help people find their videos. Because right now if you try to find a Facebook Live video after the fact, it's not the easiest thing to do. Facebook has created some tools that you can now add a live video tab to your Facebook page where people can click there and find all of it. You can also get a direct link to it. So there's some things, and all of this depends on what your congregation is using. And so that may be the first thing to go around and just see. Gary, you've talked about what y'all are doing there. We at Diocesan House, one thing we're doing to help support congregations is we're sharing from our website and our Facebook page, Trinity Cathedral Sunday service. We're putting that out there for congregations who don't have clergy in place or don't have the technical capabilities to do something on their own. They're able to through the diocesan channels, participate in a service as well. Rob, at Spartanburg, and at Good Shepherd, what are some things you can just go around? What are y'all doing for worship in your congregations? Rob.
We're doing a FaceTime Live every evening for Compline, and we do it between 9 and 9:30 every night, and have just gotten a wonderful response for people. I've had folks tell me they actually wait to watch, and of course with Facebook Live, it's recorded as well after you post it, so we have folks that can go back and see it. But we'll have 15 or 20 people that are there for the live feed, which is nice. We've also done some. We're also actually doing Christian formation with Zoom. So I know this is worship, but I mean it's all tying together in as far as I think the use of the resources. We've also done some of the devotions for individuals and families during the day around lunchtime. It's not every day. We're still trying to kind of maintain our work here at the church. It's just me or it's just Paul, but so we're not always pulling away, but we're always doing Compline. And we were able to do a full complement of Holy Week services. And of course, we're doing our Sunday worship. Now, we don't, for whatever reason, we have a bandwidth issue here at the church. So we're not able to do it live. So we're recording it usually earlier in the week because it takes quite a while to post it. So we're coming in on Thursdays at 11 a.m. and recording the service. Now, I was a little curious, trying to make sure I understood the bishop's directive about how many people can be present, because in watching some of our other churches, they seem to have a lot more people in the shot than I thought we could have. So what we've been doing to get around that is our musicians come in and actually record the music on a different day, and then we cue it up at appropriate moments during the service. So we'll have hymns and anthems, that kind of thing, and service music that we cue up at the appropriate place as Paul and I are doing the liturgy. And I'm assuming everybody's having this same kind of response. It's just nuts, the number of people that are watching us online. We're 200 ASA, 201 maybe, and we'll have anywhere from 500 to 900 people watching us for those recorded services. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and Rob, in particular, your diocesan assessment next year will reflect that increase in ASA. So just
yes, that is a question for parochial reports later on. Because right now we are really down for the year. I had 4 people on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, and so there's the General Convention office is working on that. So a couple of Christian organizations did a study over the past couple of weeks, both looking at shutdown order and post shutdown order attendance at churches, like what they're kind of saying. And this is across the board. This isn't Episcopal churches. This is everything from the church with 5 people on a Sunday to the church with 30,000. It's like a 35% increase in attendance across the board.
Wow.
So
it's also broad geographically. Like if you take a look at your Facebook, like we can see on Facebook and YouTube where people view from. And for us, for Christ Church, a lot of our Sunday worship or some other kind of air quotes bigger stuff, like 75% are from South Carolina, but 25% or 20, our Easter stuff, 28% of people were not from South Carolina, which I was shocked. I expected that to be 99% were from South Carolina and 1% is, my mom from Tennessee. But those numbers are really surprising that they're coming from lots of places.
Yeah. And so the General Convention office is working on guidance for what the parochial reports look like. Like, what do we record? From my experience doing worship online in previous services is if you look at the numbers, there's a huge number that's going to be like 3-second views. That's people who scrolled past it. There's an even larger number or a smaller number that's 1-minute views. This is on Facebook. I haven't dug into the details on YouTube, but I assume they break it down similarly. So how do you say, if someone walks into your church on a regular Sunday for a minute and then they decide no and turn around and leave, does an usher count them in an ASA? What do you count them for if they're online for that long?
Well, how about if you have somebody sitting in the pew, but they're just checked out for all but the first minute?
Yeah, right. And so so there's guidance working on that, but a lot of school districts aren't using this semester when they're calculating students' GPAs for graduation. They're this is a free pastime. And so classes are still pass fail. And so if you want to be valedictorian, you still have to pass the class, but it's not going to affect your GPA. So maybe that's some guidance to use is this isn't going to impact the overall. I don't know, because if you're like me, I participated fully in 3 different worship services on Easter Sunday, and I watched a decent amount of a lot more, right? And there's, anecdotally, I've heard reports from a lot of people that they were able to watch their friends and worship and do that. So those questions are going to come from on high somewhere, the answers about how to fill out the Red Book. But it is something.
Record every number you can.
Well, right now, I think in pencil, the latest guidance I heard was in pencil, record the people in the room. But because if you go back and look online, you're going to be able to find that information later. Because, someone's maybe watching Gary's Easter service today, and that person participated in that Easter service. And so I don't know, that could be a whole day-long discussion where we figure that out.
Right. We did Stations of the Cross, and we had huge numbers for that.
Yeah.
Which we would never have had in person. So that was an awkward one to, okay, what do I put down for that one?
Yeah. I mean, there's really no good answer. And, what we put down for the book it's important because we keep records, whatever, but as long as we're helping people participate in the liturgies of the church, if one person or a billion people watch our Facebook video, it's okay. Lloyd, I'm interested in a smaller parish that's, what are y'all doing to help keep folks connected and worship?
We've published links to at least 3 Episcopal churches. We've also recommended Daily Office, Mission St. Clair, that a lot of our folks have been using that anyway on a daily basis. We don't have the technology, and so we haven't done that. But, and there's folks that have gone out and found other resources. We had one fellow that said that he'd gotten the National Church for Easter service and was very impressed with that presentation. So it's all over the map in that regard. We're staying connected. Early on, I asked the vestry to take on portions of our directory and to make phone calls at least once a week to check on people, to see if there were any prayer needs, whether they were known to St. John's Congaree or folks that they knew that may not be connected directly to the church. Any other needs that they might have. We've picked up a few things, but by and large, our folks are doing the best they can with what they got. And the one connection or one request that I got was for a new job. So that was a little unique, but that's pretty much where we are. Where we're located, it is not on the main thoroughfare. So it's going to be a little different. I imagine there's some other churches in that same regard. The situation that we talked about earlier in the mission call, that the take a little, share a little, that's going to work where you've got a fair amount of traffic, literally traffic, and that's probably not something that's going to be available to St. John's Congaree, but not a bad idea. And I like the idea there of maybe partnering with some other church in the area that maybe has that visibility. That's really a very bright idea. And I think making those connections can be very valuable.
Yeah. And, as I've thought more, not to make this the mission and outreach call, but what would it look like if there's a Dollar General on the main street in a small town and you say, hey, can we use y'all as a site to do that? I don't know. But building those partnerships. And I also think, I know some congregations have, other congregations like St. John's Congaree have pointed people to other churches that are able to share, Sunday liturgies or other, holy day liturgies, things like that. And figuring out how we work with one another, how we support each other when we can lend a hand technologically or any other way. I think that's really important. Other thought, are there any roadblocks y'all are running into? Like, I wish we were able to do this, but we haven't figured it out. Are there?
I've heard, I'd be interested to hear some about engaging younger parishioners, children, youth, having been able to observe 3 people under the age of 9 for a month straight, every day, every second.
Wonderful, isn't it, Jimmy?
That's your own fault.
It is my fault. But one of the issues that I've observed is that their ability to dissect that from worship from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and it's all from the same device, and their ability to engage in it with it is I think they see it more as a entertainment value piece, just like they would when they were watching their iPad for Mickey Mouse Clubhouse or something. And so I was wondering if y'all have y'all touched on that or had conversations with how to, and maybe this is part of a formation call later on as well, but like, how do we equip families to be able to help their younger folks be able to draw in that worship experience, be able to
That
kind
is a
of,
good question.
yeah, Todd.
Oh, sorry. Good morning. I didn't realize y'all can hear me. I'm sorry about that. But it gives me a good thought because we deal with the at-risk youth. And right now it's pretty hard for us to reach out to them.
Sure. Gary, did you had some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the things that we've done are, we're doing our Sunday school for children via Zoom, so that's continuing. For the liturgy of the word at the Easter Vigil, one of the readers, who we had pre-recorded, was a 7th grader who's in our parish, and then, I mean, I could also talk about some things that. Well, I'll just go. Yeah, like we did. I don't know how approved this is, but I told people that after the proper liturgy for Holy Saturday, which was 10 a.m. on Saturday, that the cross that we flower would be on the lawn of the church, and we would just see if there were flowers there the next day. And so, and some members of the church came by and put flowers there and took pictures of their children by the cross that was being flowered. And so, and it was mainly, families with young children that brought some flowers from their yard. They cut some azaleas and such. And so, and I think that was a very life-giving thing. We actually had one parishioner who has a young child who wrote a reflection about, she walked from her house to the church and had gathered all this stuff because she was really worried that nobody was going to do anything. And she got there and it was just overflowing with flowers. And it to her, it just kind of gave her this, she's been a senior warden. And so she just said, I realized, it reminded me that it's not up to me, and everybody is doing their part, and that kind of thing. So it was a really beautiful, I think, thing for her. But those are a few different things we've done, and I'm actually going to need to leave in just a few minutes, which I'll tell you why, because it's related to worship, and this is another thing that I offer, and then if people feel like I need more guidance on this, then they can offer it to me. But this week is, as Easter week, we are doing noon mass every day of this week, or I have offered to do noon mass every day of this week. It is not being live streamed, but we created a sign up where 2 parishioners can come and be lectors for that, and it is me and the 2 parishioners. I go into the church, I wipe down the 2 chairs that I've sat down for them. Actually, I do it before and after. They're in front of the altar rail, 12 feet apart from each other, and I wipe down the prayer books and actually switch out prayer books so that I'm going around the room and getting different prayer books. And I do a very simple mass for the folks that have signed up to want to come and have, a way for each. So following all the rules, but I would imagine that might cause some heartburn for some people, but I'm very comfortable with that. So I open the doors for them, wipe down the rails, before and after, and do all these things. Anything that they would touch gets wiped down. So anyway, I don't know if anybody would have any feedback on whether that's, not asking for an official dice. But
it's not crazy if that's the barometer we're using.
right. Okay.
And I've seen, similar to your flowering cross idea, I've seen other parishes that have done that. And it's the same concept behind the little free pantry, right? People make their own judgment calls on if they're able to go somewhere and do something and then leave. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I think I mean, one thing for me is we can be like airtight safe if we want to be. But the fact is that when we go to church on Sunday outside of this, we are taking on the risk of getting in a car and driving to church, and knowing that a certain number of people who get in a car to drive to church across a year are going to be in an accident. And so I think that, we can, part of this is just trying to assess the risk and be smart and be faithful and be loving in all that we do. So I would also be interested to know, and maybe we'll hear more about this later today, if the diocese, has an idea what's happening May 1st or later at this point. Because is May 1st currently still the date that we have been told, at least in the past, that things are opening up?
Well, the system of in-person worship at this point is through at least April 30th.
Okay.
I don't think that presupposes that things open up again on May 1st.
Right.
It's just saying right now through April 30th is as far as we know.
Okay. I just want to make sure I hadn't missed any further.
No, there hasn't been. I don't think that's gonna, I'm making a note of that. I don't think that's gonna come up in the clergy call today.
Okay.
There will probably be a pastoral directive or pastoral letter coming with other things, but that's probably something to, my gut just May 1st is we're not gonna be able to gather. Schools aren't reopening May 1st, right? Like, I don't know that we can put a date on it because,
Alan, this is Lloyd from St. John's Congaree.
Yeah.
I think they've got a national meeting of all the religious leaders Friday. So
Okay.
you may get more information this Friday, at least on a national level anyway, what the recommendations are. And it may be, like a lot, where they're going to look at what's going on in a given area. And if they feel like they have resources lined up and available to quickly diagnose and get folks to the right location for quarantine or what have you, they may get a green light. Folks that are still dealing with the swamp of issues with people having it and getting treatment may not be getting the green light right away. But that's just a guess. Friday may be a better day.
Jimmy, your kids are little, and so I can see that a screen is just entertainment. Have they tried doing anything Zoom when they can actually see other people doing it, or are you just doing the live stream type broadcast?
Well, we've kind of my wife and I have adapted online use with our own liturgies. So we'll do part of it together, right? So I have a 9-year-old who likes to read. So we stop the live stream or whatever and let him read the epistle, right? Or we'll just try to adapt things as it comes and makes sense. We'll listen to a sermon and then stop it and I'll ask them questions about what they heard from the gospel. Just anything to sort of engage them in the liturgy and sort of separate the entertainment piece of a live stream with some hands-on, some ways for them to kind of be rooted into the liturgy as it's happening. It's messy, but the whole thing's messy.
Messy Church is a program.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we've done in our house. It's to give them space to kind of enter into the liturgy and kind of read back into it. And I think for them, it breaks some of the the mentality of this might as well be frozen too, right?
Yeah, and it's all very well for the adults to say we are the church, not the building, but for the kids, if they're not doing it normally it's much harder for them to stay engaged.
Right.
And I'd say, I have 9 and 11-year-old boys, and my wife is a teacher and school administrator, but my kids do about 2 hours of schoolwork a day, because there's not, and so if there's anyone who's equipped to do this schooling at home, it would be my wife. But we're not pushing it, because like everything in these boys' lives is upended. And so I think we as the church run the risk of over programming as well. Like I know the church I attend, they're putting out a ton of stuff that children and youth can do. We don't do a 20th of it, maybe. Part of that is that, I'm in this profession and my kids pick up on this stuff, but also like, what are the formation opportunities that kids are getting just by learning to be a part of a family in a new way? Same, with the school, kids are learning things like boredom, right? There's things that kids are picking up that are outside. And so I think the dark side of trying to overprogram. Gary, are you signing off?
Yeah, I'll say thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And for youth groups, I know there's some youth groups that are doing Zoom calls and things like that. Like my son does Wildlife, which is a young life ministry for middle schoolers. He gets together for his discipleship group on Zoom every Tuesday at 8:00, where the guy does a little devotional, the leader, and they pray. And there's an 11-year-old who's saying, here's a prayer request. And it's not anything me, his priest dad, is foisting on him, but it's, other people. And so what are there ways that we can do that with youth as well? I mean, I've watched a 4th grader try to be on Zoom calls with his classroom, and those are a disaster. I mean, it's running around with the computer. Hey, there's my dog. Hey, there's my cat. Hey, and so, but at the same time, they're connecting with each other, right? And so we run the risk of trying to be too perfect when these kids just want to show each other the cool Lego thing they built and just say, hey, here's this other 9-year-old that means a lot to me, and I just want to share with him what I've been doing. And so how, is the formation right now? Yeah, we need to teach kids about the story of Noah or whatever. Or is it we need to teach kids that there's still people that love them, even though they don't live in the 4 walls of the house that we're confined to? And so and that'll be something I'd be really interested on the formation call at 1:00 to talk about. Like, what are we forming? Are we finding ways to dump information into people's heads? Or are we trying to look at this particular time as a way to form in a new way? Right.
Yeah. I think in preparation for that formation call this afternoon, I mean, that's going to be a large part of the topic is, particularly with children and youth, and also as well, like, a lot of the feedback that we get is parents don't feel equipped to help their children do this work. And they're already learning math to help with math. They're already learning English to help with English. And they're already learning, X and Y and Z. And so how are models of formation, how can we put them together so where this is a generative family experience that happens, and I think when we think about worship, I wonder if the same question could be posed. Maybe there's a family Eucharist that y'all decide to do in coinciding that does have breaks that allows prompts for families to be able to engage the liturgy in different ways in which all adult mature congregation could absorb and participate in different ways. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I have some thoughts. I'd be glad to kind of workshop those, but like but I wonder if given that we have, if we're doing like a Rob Brown St. Matthew's where we can pre-record things, we have all week to be able to do that. We have all week to be able to create family liturgies that are principle in nature and, don't break rubrics, but give space and ways in which families can enter in and kind of be present physically, not just virtually, within the liturgy together. It would be an interesting, I mean, at least for me, that's an interesting concept is, how do we make the liturgy present in the living room beyond the screens in which we virtually participate with one another. Now, and I think there's a way of being able to blend that, and whether by formation or worship pedagogy, right? Like I think there are really creative ways of being able to engage the different populations within our communities, that could be, a place where it's generative for the family. So where my 3-year-old can participate with, in a liturgy, instead of playing with her trains or turning the live feed off, which she likes to push the red button on the iPad. As Lloyd well knows, her. So I don't know. It's a thought, I think there are some things and considerations. Are we breaking community when we do multiple liturgies like that? But we already do it anyway. We have our 8 and 10 o'clock. So do we, rather than by time, do we do it by family situation, or do we do it by desire? Do we have a solemn, is it a family Eucharist? Do we do pre-recorded music or not? Or I don't know. Just the world is open to it. We have to decide whether or not we want to bifurcate our communities, in ways, or is this an opportunity to unify the community? One of the age-old questions, or concerns of having multiple services in a parish is, we're supposed to be the unified body of Christ in this place, and then we have an 8 o'clock congregation and a 10 o'clock congregation. So now we have not really one parish, but 2 congregations, and the challenges that we meet in that. And so my own challenge to the thought that I even have about this is this an opportunity for unification within the parish? And how do we encourage that? I know St. Grace Church in Anderson they do coffee hour, virtual coffee hour, which sounds almost as appealing to me, at least, as Alan's fourth grader Zoom chat. It's just complete chaos. But the opportunities are amazing. Both in the sense that we have the opportunity to be able to meet particular needs of families, or older folks, or this genre, or this subsect, or this and that. But also, this might also be a time for us to find unification, which may or may not be problematic within the idea of sort of doing these genre breakouts. I don't know. That's been on my mind lately. I'd be interested to hear what y'all think about it.
What it makes me think about is the idea of an instructed Eucharist. Is when we're already, in some sense, some places are pre-recording different portions, but even live, there's already a difference because people aren't coming forward to participate in the Eucharist. So is there an opportunity for clergy to slow down and as they're doing something, which by definition is in a new way because it's on screen, to explain why were these decisions made? What does it mean that we have one bread and one cup and not 50, what are the, is there an opportunity for teaching here, which I think appeals to, you can have it appeal to a 3-year-old, you can have it appeal to the head of the altar guild who needs to think about these things as well.
Good morning, everybody. This is Todd from Church of the Cross. What I've been doing I've just been going online every Sunday morning and just doing various versions of morning prayer. And during Lent, I also go live on Wednesday and do like evening prayer Compline, just to try to keep the Sunday thing going, because we were all kind of afraid that when we shut down, we wouldn't really have communication. So I guess I kind of got a battlefield promotion and became the head Eucharistic minister. And ever since it started, I've been broadcasting live every Sunday. And so far for me, it's been just trying to learn how to do I do the liturgies in church, but just doing it online and going to various resources around the country and throwing together the liturgy has been a very steep learning curve, but it's been very rewarding, because I get viewers. I mean, we get viewers and people that I haven't recognized on our Facebook page that I've never met at the church, but they're watching. So, and some of the conversations we're having today about the youth and trying to engage them, I'm going to try to incorporate that in the future, or talk to somebody that works with the youth so that way we can get the kids more involved. Because right now I'm just going to probably just stick with just doing the service and then let everyone else do the service as they may.
This is Sarah at Christ Church. We had talked about our clergy and liturgy team had talked a lot about, this is a great opportunity. Y'all had said about kind of instruction for all people, not just youth and not just the head of the altar guild. But so we kind of early on talked that it's not the same. Like if I celebrate, or I don't celebrate a Eucharist, if a clergy celebrates a Eucharist, me as a congregation member just watching that, I miss it. I feel left out, so I'm more likely to disengage and not participate in that, because I can't fully participate. And the Eucharist is our normal, kind of our regular service, but a lot of our congregation has only participated in morning prayer via choral matins that we have once a quarter, or in some kind of retreat. And so our team has really talked about that going forward, we think morning prayer is kind of an opportunity to say, hey, there's other liturgies out there other than a rite to Eucharist, and here it is, and here's something that you as a family could, kind of like Jimmy said, you could participate in. Your kid could read the psalm, and here's a let's pray for the prayers of the people. What prayers do you have? So I think that's kind of an interesting thought I think that they had. And then secondly, for Holy Week, we had talked a lot about, we thought about broadcasting an Easter Vigil and broadcasting a Maundy Thursday and all of that, and kind of went back to, it's just not the same if you're not there. So how can we distill that down? And so our Holy Week offerings are like 15-minute kind of sermon, meditation, music stuff, which was really successful. And so when we thought about, well, maybe we could go from that to continuing that kind of 12-minute, 8-minute thing. But then we thought, well, that's actually a disservice to our congregation if we're doing this 12-minute thing and all of a sudden we get back June 1st and they're expecting a 12-minute Rite One Eucharist. Like that's going to be an issue. So we've decided to kind of, our Sunday offering this week will be morning prayer, to sort of get back into a liturgy style. And again, kind of instructing and teaching, this is an option, and this is a beautiful liturgy in itself. So that's kind of our thought process going forward. I'm curious if anybody has started to think about that first, whether it's May 2nd or it's June 2nd or it's December 15th, that first service that we're all back. Has anybody kind of making plans or thoughts for what that might look like? Kind of just curious what thoughts are there.
Diocesan wide, one idea that's been floated is, the rubric in the prayer book that that allows the bishop to signify locally a Sunday as a feast of special observance, whatever, I forget the language. But, you know, we, the diocesan wide, when we say, hey, here's the first Sunday. But then my question that I'm struggling with is the first Sunday that we're back, whatever that means, we're not back. We've got, people aren't going to gather in large groups for a long time.
Yeah.
That's my fear. Like, are 600 people going to show up on a Sunday at Christ Church? I don't know. Maybe they will. So how do we figure out what church looks like going forward? And this is a deeply ecclesiological question. I don't know when people are going to feel safe doing that. Rob, you had a thought, and then Todd.
Well, I was going to say, one, just thank y'all for this whole conversation. I've been texting back and forth with my EYC leader and the person that does our recordings. And you're right. One of our advantages is that we can insert different things during the course of the weeks. We got a week to record and put it together. So my EYC is, as of 5 minutes ago, they're going to do the prayers of the people each week. They're going to do it on a Zoom conference and record it, send it to my guy that's doing all of our IT, and he'll splice it or dub it or have whatever the correct terminology is. He'll insert it into our liturgy. And so you'll go from just seeing Father Abernathy and I up there by the altar to suddenly seeing this whole crowd of kids, because our EYC has been doing stuff with Zoom every week anyway. And they're getting, you know, anywhere from about a dozen to 20 kids. And so it'll be their voices that folks will hear. So that was something that happened just now because of this conversation. So thank you very, very much, guys. The other thing is, we're, because of now this ability, we're going to see how we can add lectors into it. But as far as getting back together, I think, Alan, you're absolutely right. Folks are going to be hesitant to gather in large groups unless we change the name of the church to Lowe's or Home Depot. Get this. This is absolutely serious, guys. I needed to go to Lowe's yesterday. The parking lot was full. So I called them to find out when they had their lowest numbers. And it's right at opening at 6 a.m. or right before closing at 7. The day before yesterday, the Lowe's on the east side of Spartanburg had 2,200 customers. I mean, that's just insane. So people will gather in large groups for a perceived need. So I do think that we'll have a decent response, but there'll be things that might be changed for years. The passing of the peace, how do you do that? The concerns that we had about the common cup at the very beginning of this thing, how is that addressed going forward? I think we will probably, normally we have 3 services on a Sunday. I think we may just try to have 1 or at the most 2, or we may just go to our summer schedule where we only have 1 for the entire summer. I think we're going to be in experimental mode for months, which that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it allows us to try some of the innovative things. I've already had people say that they want us to continue doing the online worship that we do every night. All right. And so I think that's an opportunity for us to expand that, invite other people in the congregation to be a part of the daily office or the devotions for individuals and family, and let that be just a daily offering on Facebook Live for the parish. And we'll definitely continue recording. We were recording services before, but I think this is going to draw us more and more into worship as one more positive aspect of social media. I think it could be, at least for us, maybe there are other denominations or other churches, probably some non-denominational churches, that are already making profound use of social media, and we're just catching up as a result of this.
I was just going to say that my challenge for our church is in the before time, we of course we'd have our worship, but we never broadcasted. Our Facebook page was even very rarely used. But then now that I've stepped in to do the morning prayers and all that, people are actually watching. People like I mentioned a few minutes ago that I never recognized are joining. And in fact, my own parents from out in Oklahoma and Texas are now watching Church of the Cross. So my challenge is going to be trying to get some of those people that are closer to Columbia to attend our church, and for my parents to be able to watch our services. So that's going to be our challenge going forward, is being able to, because I think people do want to watch what we're doing, even people that are not Episcopalian, or at least yet. I want to try to keep them engaged and in the new time, so that way that even if they don't come to our physical plant, I still want them to be able to experience, because we have a lot to offer. And I discovered that before Holy Week, that there's all kinds of resources out there that we can mine for liturgy, and I did some of that mining, and it's just, this is a great opportunity for our church.
Yeah, and Rob, what you're talking about, social media, is too often organizations, Episcopal churches, businesses, they use social media as a billboard to say, hey, here's our thing. What I've seen, non-denom evangelical churches trying to shift, they still do that. But how do we help people worship through social media? And so if it's just a countdown timer with a prompt that says, hey, for the next 30 seconds, pray for the leaders of our city, and there's a video with a countdown timer, right? Or whatever it is. How are things? So when you're scrolling through cat videos and memes about the president, or whatever it is, you're going to stop and, oh, they're asking me to pray. I can pause and do that. Are there ways that we can worship like that? Is part of the impetus behind the short video series we're doing on the diocesan page with the praying together, where we're recording, pretty much every prayer and collect in the BCP is 30 seconds, almost on the dot. And we're recording people just on their voice praying those prayers, and we put an interesting video or picture with it, so it's not just saying here's news, but here's a resource in your social media feed to help you worship or pray or whatever. And how we as the church can do that, I think, is essential going forward. And so we are at 2 minutes till our time. And are there any last thoughts, questions, anything for the good of the order?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of like Todd. We at Christ Church will be going for, everyone's asked for online stuff. We've actually never done an online thing in the last couple of years. And so there's going to be a lot more work for the same amount of people who are already sort of overworked. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what this question is, but will there be resources, or are there thoughts for resources from the diocesan house, whether that's, money for new positions, or other webinars like this, or like y'all kind of being on standby for things like, for questions like this. I'm sure that that's in kind of your conversation going forward. And I would ask that you have that conversation about what do we do if we're already overworked and now we have to add on Wednesday Facebook Live church service, everyone, so that would just be my question.
Can I throw something in real quick, Alan?
Yeah, please.
So Sarah, I was the associate at a large resource parish for a number of years before I became a rector. And one of the things that I realized very quickly is that in a resource place, very often we overlook the ability and the desires of the parishioners to be more involved in things that seem on the surface to be programmatic, that you would normally hire staff for. And so I think you've got a lot of folks at Christ Church that are kind of an untapped resource. And I'm going to give you one right now who can certainly help you with any of your social media stuff. Her name is Kara Richards. Okay. She and her fiance are members of your parish, and she is an executive with Crawford Strategies. So she does advertising, okay, public relations, and she is very, very good at it. And if you were to call her and ask her, is this something you would consider being a part of, helping us, touch people through social media and explore some new worship options, you might find that she'd be interested.
Yeah, well, thank you. I will. Even then, though, that calls into question some volunteer management. So, it's just a question of kind of what. And yeah, we're a resource church, and we have lots of opportunities, and we, I will admit, don't do a great job of kind of pulling in those people who could help us. So, I mean, that's a great point for sure.
And you can tell Kara that her future.
Yeah, I'll tell her that she was voluntold.
Yes, I'm connected by voice. Can you hear me? Yes. I have been all my life a very liberal, social and theological, until I had an experience at Church of the Cross in Bluffton, which unfortunately is out of the Episcopal Church before I moved into Columbia. I'm not with them in many ways, but what I've discovered is that the United States is basically a conservative country, regardless of whether wherever you live. It's basically a conservative religious country. This virtual online time, I think, is an opportunity for us to show that the Episcopal Church is first and foremost a Christian denomination. I've heard people ask the question, or imply with the question, that the Episcopal Church is not Christian. And we need to emphasize that we are first and foremost Christian, and then Episcopalians. Just want to put that in.
Yeah, no, I think it's a chance for us to live authentically into who we are. But I think, as Sarah and Rob pointed out, this is going to be a time where we're going to be able to empower folks, not just folks that receive a paycheck from the church, not just folks with collars, but how do people participate in the worship life, in the formation life, in the whatever life of the church. There's going to be drawbacks with that. It's going to cost more work. But on the technical side, Sarah, to your question, if folks have questions, I'm blanking on the communications director's name at Christ Church, but I know her, and she and I have worked together in the past. If there's questions about, the technical components, I'm happy to help people think through that. I've done that with Trinity Cathedral and their work, and with smaller parishes just trying to get things up with the cell phone. The opportunities there are endless. So, and Courtney Thompson, our communications director, is happy to help people think through social media and things like that. But we do know that the gifts and skills that will be required for leadership in whatever new realities emerge might be different than they were in the past. I don't think we know what those are right now. But yeah, that's part of what this group is for people to come forward. And if at some point, if we want someone to come to this worship roundtable and talk specifically about online church, we can find someone in the church that's doing it really well that could give some best practices and do some more expert teaching, away from just the roundtable brainstorming session. But that's all really helpful.
I also want to emphasize, in spite of all of the technology and what have you, we want to emphasize that in the three-legged stool that we often talk about, Scripture is number one, and we need to uphold that. And with this virtual use of technology, I think we need to use it to project the church as basically a biblical church.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And with that, we're past 12 o'clock. So if there's nothing else, thank you. This group is going to meet again in 2 weeks. Whoever wants to get on at 11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 29th, to talk about worship and all of that. But hold on one second. Yeah, but with that, I hope you all have wonderful days. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank y'all.